There she is.
There we
Hi,
go. Hi.
welcome to
Hi,
the
Genieve.
show.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you all doing?
Good. I'm working on getting you that stuff.
Oh, yeah, no problem. I'm not being pushy, but if
Oh, no,
something's not
no.
in my inbox, I'm gonna forget it.
I know. If you can kind of give us a little bit of background on why you got into this industry, it's a kind of a great story of your background and why you're in the construction
Sure.
or the industrial type of real estate setting and where that came from.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, great. Well, thank you guys, one, for getting all this set up and connecting on here. I think these are really fun to do, and I think it's vital for our the audience, both in commercial real estate and also in commercial businesses, really to understand where the market is at. And it's very helpful for us to know where the market is at as we guide them in these shifts through the night of economics and all of the current market conditions. So, always great to do these sort of podcasts. My name is Genieve Posen, and I am a commercial real estate broker at NAI Semvesta. I am a director here with the company, and I've been with the company for 10 years. Um, through different avenues of the company, I'm currently a broker, but before that, I had a big hand in the marketing with our company. But technically, I am a trained landscape architect, and that was really my introduction to the commercial real estate world. I started working in landscape architecture right out of graduate school and hit the market right about when the market crashed, the big recession, I guess, around 2008. And I was really blessed to stay with my company as they laid off a lot of more seasoned professionals. I was a young kid out of college, and I was cheap labor, so I wore a lot of hats in the office. I would be working on construction documents for commercial projects, doing site planning in the morning, and then the afternoon I'd be working with the planning department, taking projects through entitlements and working through government approvals and working on the entitlement side of projects. And then I could also, being the young person in the office, I would be on social media promoting our company and our brand. So I wore a lot of hats very young, and I was able to work at that company for 10 years. So I would say that my experience as a landscape architect for a decade designing commercial projects was a massive foundation for brokerage, and specifically land to development brokerage. And that's essentially what I reside now. I specialize in land for development, but oftentimes in the land world, in the land brokerage world, you have to be somewhat of an expert in multiple disciplines, just because land goes to every asset class. And when I speak of asset classes, I'm talking about multifamily asset class, office, retail, industrial, even single home residential, into the sense of master plan developments. And so land really goes to a lot of different
Mm-hmm.
developments. So you have to have a very good understanding of all sorts of different asset classes. And I've specialized more on the retail and the industrial side, and most recently been working on a lot of medical. So land, you just have to have a really good understanding of of economics and what it takes to make a development pencil. Essentially, there's a lot of geopolitical and outside influences in the market right now that you have a developer coming in and trying to understand all of those and navigate things such as construction costs and things like that. But really, land is at the basis of all developments in a city and understanding where growth is happening and things like that. So it's awesome. I really like it. I get to work with the different asset classes. I have a much broader knowledge base of different asset classes through that. So, and Kelly and I have been working together through a few different veins, but we've seemed to hit our stride on business and real estate combination deals. So, and I'll let Kelly sort of speak to what her side is, but a lot there's a real shift. I think we need to talk high level about this sort of shift, a generational shift happening right now. So we're seeing a massive population, the boomers, shift into retirement right now, and where that shifting is happening. We're seeing the ripple effects of that, and the ripple effects are businesses changing hands, real estate changing hands, and it's a big tidal wave that's about to hit, and I think we're sort of on that first layer of that. And Kelly and I have joined forces. Again, I'll let her speak to the business side, but essentially we're locking arms on handling opportunities that involve the business side as well as the real estate side, and the delicate balance of those two entities coming together to support a client in a very sort of active, and I don't want to say volatile because it's not, but I would say there's a lot of caution in the market today.
Where do you think that caution is coming from?
Right.
What's going on with that from your point of view?
Yeah. How I'd like to call it is, nationally, we're the stables are the fundamentals of real estate are very stable right now, but I would say there's cautious optimism, is how I would put that. And I would say where those factors are coming in from a very tangible standpoint, is let's say people starting a new business. Um, there's a shift in consumers. There's a shift in choices of consumers. There's a shift in money and how much money costs lending.
Hmm.
That's a challenge. I mean, sort of going down the list of some of the things challenging new buyers right now. Some fundamentals are interest rates. Interest rates still haven't cooled to where everybody would like them to be. I don't see them making a dramatic change. I see them sort of slightly coming down to more reasonable paces, but they're not going to jump significantly. I think really what we're seeing is the market's catching up to that. The market's getting comfortable with that. These developers and people looking to do new projects or take on new businesses, money just costs more now. So now that has a ripple effect on how much, I'd like to buy this business, but the lending is going to be challenging, and I'm not going to quite have the return on investment that I would like to see. And so that's causing a lot of people to put pencils down or to move forward. Construction costs are high, and they probably won't come down. Nothing comes down. Things just kind of continue to evolve as they do, and everyone rebounds around that. Sort of react around that. So construction costs are continuing to be a challenge for new groups, but also in the same favor, construction costs can favor someone with existing property, which is often in our case, right? Replacement costs. So I think where we can support our sellers right now is that for say a buyer that's coming in that's trying to see, should I build a new building? Should I put
Hmm.
should I start a new business? Well, that's very chancy in this market. Are you sure your customers are looking for that same thing that turned you on to this business 10 years ago? There's that sort of caution. I'll take the same 5,000 square foot building that's available to me with this business. If I tried to build that, it would cost me 3 times the amount. So there is a point right now where we can support our sellers in a sense of leveraging, some challenges that are out there for buyers. So ways to leverage lending. Well, if you can't get a good lending number, would you be willing to carry the note on an owner financing deal? That's a way to keep your pricing where you would like it, keep it to where the seller would like, but hey, I'll carry the note for you, but these are my terms. So, that's an option for buyers to get into this market that are somewhat challenged with lending. Two, you have a building for here to replace this building, to create a new building, it would cost you this much. I'm only asking this much. So there's opportunities wherever there's a challenge, there's an opportunity. And I think that's where Kelly and I really step into the batter's cage here and say, hey, we can support our buyers, I mean our sellers and buyers in that sense. But I would say those are some of the biggest things at the top of the food chain right now is understanding consumer trends. And are these businesses, whether they're buying them, do we not have as much attraction to them? Is that still what the consumer wants? So I think there's hesitation there. Second is the construction industry, and then what the cost there to. So say they even do buy a business and they want to put in renovations. The cost of doing that is a challenge now, and also the lending. The lending world is a bit of a challenge. I'm trying to understand numbers in that sense. So that's what I'm seeing high level. There's other things that are coming into play for the industry. I mean, we can tariffs and other geopolitical things that are happening right now in the Middle East. Is that going to have somewhat of a trickle effect in terms of caution of any buyer or anything like that. Yeah, on larger scales. The great thing about New Mexico is we don't hit the highs and we don't hit the lows. So with that, we're kind of even
Kind of
keel
stable, yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
steady. And Kelly, what do you see on your side?
When we're looking at a property, maybe that's turnkey, that we've
Yes.
seen that's turnkey for a potential buyer that has maybe the business associated with it. I was trying to connect the one that we're dealing with right now with
Oh, yeah.
overspending on certain types of
Right.
equipment and having high expectations of what it's going to translate as a sales price and why that doesn't really translate to that. It really
Sure.
and that it isn't the same as the home market is different than the commercial market.
Right.
The
Right.
residential
Okay.
is different than the commercial, where maybe residential, you have these high fluctuations where the market's really hot, the market's not, all of a sudden.
Right.
Where commercial kind of is steady Eddie. It
It's
just
very
stays kind of the
steady.
same. And a lot of times the value 10 years ago is the same value that it is
Yeah,
now. And
oftentimes it can be.
we look at comps and we look at things like that. And that's how we determine the pricing because that's what the buyer's kind of looking at. They're
Sure.
looking at comps. They're looking at what is a reasonable price per square foot in that area and
Right.
why maybe your office may be way better than another office, but we still have to take those into consideration that there's availability outside of your area, around your area that may be a better deal for buyers and that may
Right.
steer buyers away from your place because you have that higher expectation. And how does that factor in? It's just going to be listed. You have to kind of know that you're going to be listed for a longer period of time. Probably won't find a buyer right away. It's going to be a special kind of person that really wants that space.
Like anything, whether it's a home or whether it's a business or whether it's a commercial real estate property, people, there's an emotional tie to there. And oftentimes in business, it's very similar to a home. People have one business and they have one location, and that's it. Where in commercial real estate, oftentimes an investor may have multiple properties, and so they're a little less connected emotionally to them. But oftentimes in the business world, and as it's tied to real estate, there's a lot of emotion right there. Very similar to what you would probably experience in the residential world. And so, a challenge, well, I would say, for whether you're assisting selling the property or assisting selling the building, is really educating your client and managing their expectations. The buyers are, you have a tight market right now. Money's not as free as it was right after COVID. So, what we're challenged with as professionals right now is balancing those expectations of the sellers, right? We were in a seller's market, man, a few years ago, especially when it came to industrial properties, not as much office, but industrial, even good land sites. It was a seller's market. There wasn't enough inventory on the market. I couldn't keep an industrial property on the shelf. It didn't matter what condition it was. It would fly off the shelf and at high prices. And there was just a lot of money coming out of COVID. And so money was just being flung everywhere. And it certainly inflated pricing to a degree because there just wasn't a lot of product on the market. And at the time, because of COVID constraints, we weren't getting a lot of new supplies, new construction materials to build new things. It was quite costly. And so existing inventory really skyrocketed up. And so now the honeymoon's over with all of that excess money, and we're
Mhm.
obviously in feeling some inflation, right? And so money is tight right now. And so right now, a challenge for us, myself and you included, anyone trying to manage a seller's expectations, whether that's business or real estate, is trying to help them understand where the market is at right now. And depending on where your asset class is, we're this it's not as aggressive as of a seller's market, especially when it comes to medical or or office space, right? Because of COVID, everybody left the office. So you have empty buildings of offices everywhere, large ones. Now, smaller offices are more in demand. However, people can only pay so much, right? So going to what you're saying regarding comps, when we analyze a property and analyze a business, we're looking at comparable properties. So we can price it wherever we want. The sky's the limit for the seller, but what are the buyers buying at right now? And so when we analyze a property, we want to look for, very current comps within the past year or 2 years of similar like properties, and what are they selling for, and what is the condition of those properties, and also who's on the market. If I'm a buyer and I'm looking at this property over here, this build out, well, I got three more beautiful build out properties right next to you. Property A cannot inflate its price so much because I'm just going to go to property B, C, and D that which are cheaper. And if I want to put improvements, I can put them in. And so oftentimes, because businesses are very personal and because their real estate is also tied to that personal asset, it's a challenge with sellers and helping them manage their expectations. And oftentimes, you can get a situation where the value of a property is really in the eye of the beholder, which is the owner. And oftentimes, those cherished build outs and those very
Mm-hmm.
emotional pieces to the property don't necessarily hold monetary value in a buyer sense. And so that's a real challenge for us and a real obligation, and actually also a real opportunity to help our clients understand where markets are at.
It's kind of similarly to a home. Let's just use
Very
that
similar.
example because almost everybody knows how that works. If you buy a home that is in a certain area of town, that most of the homes have, just a grass backyard. They're on a half an acre and every single home is like that. And you buy this home, or you own this home, and you put a freaking pool in the backyard, and you put all these high-end appliances in your house, from Italy. You're not going to be, it probably won't get back that return, right?
No,
I mean,
no.
you're not going to get back what you put into that house.
Unless you have that one buyer, and there's always that buyer that's like, this meets up with this, but chances are very unlikely. When it comes to real estate, I like to talk to my clients and I give them timelines and I give them price points, and I walk through and help them understand where their motivation. If I have a highly motivated seller, well, we got to, if you want this thing to move, well, this is the price range I would suggest that it be put in. If you're okay with time, but it's either time or money. That's everyone's pressure point here. It's no, there's no magic formula. It's time and money. That's the pressure point of every business owner, every property owner is time and money. And you figure out, what are they willing to leverage? Are they willing to leverage time? Yeah, I'm okay with keeping it on the market for 2 years. Let's be aggressive on pricing. You're out there long enough, you're going to find that buyer. And so I think it's just a matter of managing expectations, which is challenging because we don't actually have a crystal ball, right? It's a very, that's why it's very important to understand your markets and understand, stay very tuned to what's happening so you can provide your clients. And over the years in brokerage, I remember when I was first starting, I felt very emotional with a lot of my clients because I knew, like, oh, I want more money and I want them to get more money. But I also didn't like seeing them wait and get very frustrated because they were priced out of the market. And over the years, that's become a fundamental thing for me, is really explaining. And I think that's the value I bring. And I know, Kelly, I've heard your conversations on the business side. That's the value we bring, is helping you understand the market, and guiding you through the selling process accordingly.
What's the inventory like now?
So there's a lot on the market right now. I have some clients that I met with like last week or the week before that have their dental practice listed, that have looked at other business brokers, and there's a lot on the market right now. There are a lot of dental practices that are on the market right now. I feel like nothing's really
Nothing's
moving.
moving.
Nothing's really moving. And I think, and it's funny too, because most of all the brokers are fighting for the same buyer, and the buyer is like either one or two or three different people that are looking for dental practices, let's just say, for instance. And then like for Genieve, you and I are stuff that we do together as far as, because yes, you are helping on some of the dental side, but most of your industry specialty is within other industries. When we look at that, we do have lots and lots of prospective buyers that could potentially make a move and possibly buy businesses that we have listed with real estate, but they're slow to move too. They're slow to make a move and take a chance on it because of the fact of, like you said, the price of money right now. And
There's a lot of caution in the market.
yeah,
Not to
there's a
say that
lot of
there's not
caution.
money or demand, but there's caution in the market. And there has been for, I would say since COVID, unless there's a clear path forward. And I guess I would ask on that, Kelly, of those people that are selling, what would you say their motivation is? Are they retiring? Are
So that
they
goes back to the point of what, because you had said that you had attended some conference or something out of state. And I think, and I got this perspective from you, like because of the fact that you're very involved with crew, construction, real estate women, you actually are the um,
president?
president now of crew, and you've traveled to other states and different conferences because of that standing that you are. And then you have talked to other people about like the economic development here in New Mexico, and your feedback from other states has been not that positive, right?
Yeah, so I think there's a few. I mean, we can talk about things globally, but let's talk about New Mexico in our immediate market. I think globally, like I really believe there is a shift in generations, okay? And a lot of these businesses, look at our customers. They're all on the verge of retirement, okay? And now the next generations, the kids aren't taking over the business, right? They want to go and they're off to college, they want to experience, they're probably traveling. This next generation, they love to travel. They're more, I mean, you can really
I
drill
just
down.
see a lot more people leaving the state. So most of I have maybe 80% of my buyers are young. I mean, 80% of my sellers are young people that want to leave and they want to
Got
go
it.
to another state. And then I have 20% that are retiring.
Got
So
it.
on the business side, on the real estate side, you may be seeing something a little bit different where people
Yeah, I
are
could speak
more
a little bit to
retiring
that.
and wanting to sell their real estate. But like from my perspective, when I think about like when I talk to especially dentists in this state, and I think it has a lot to do with the political climate
Yes,
of our
yes,
state,
yes,
and the fact that we have tax upon tax upon tax. A lot of times people have a misconception in other states about how if they were to come here. I've talked to lots of dentists and they're like, "What's gross receipts tax and why do I have to pay it?" They
yes,
don't understand how
yes,
that works in a dental practice, and they're not educated on how that actually works. And so they're scared of that. So a lot of times they may want to come back here and open a practice. They may want to come from out of state and open a practice here or buy a
right.
existing practice here, but they're scared because they have this idea in their
Misconception.
head that this may not be a friendly state for them to
Right.
come to.
Mm-hmm.
Education is going to be key for us to kind of, I think, be a little bit more outspoken about how we are friendly to business owners.
New Mexico, we're a little slower to start than our sister states around us. In fact,
Hmm.
I think I've told you before that we're often I call it the donut hole effect. A lot of people have termed it the donut hole effect. And you'll get retailers and out of state investors that are really going everywhere around us but New Mexico. And, once they exhaust, Denver, and then once they exhaust, Arizona and Texas, hey, well, let's go to New Mexico. We're the last part they kind of go in
Yeah.
the southwestern world, and there's a lot of reason for that. One is, I would say, we don't have as much land available, so people would think that we have a ton of land available, and we don't. So I'm talking about a little bit of new development, and why we don't get like more new development coming in, and this probably could extend, cautionary of people maybe looking into the state. One is our land is very expensive comparatively to other locations because we don't have a lot. We're landlocked, right? We have pueblos surrounding us to the west,
Mm-hmm.
to the north, and to the south, and we are constrained by the mountains to the east. So while it may look visually like we have a ton of land, we actually don't. And so that is, why would you pay X amount of dollars here when you can get for land when you can get half of that in another state, right?
Mm-hmm.
We also are challenged with the entitlement and development process here in New Mexico. And although I hear that often from other people that they're equally challenged, but I know for me on the brokerage side, working with developers and new projects, it's a challenge for these projects to get out. That whether it's city staffing or whether it's opposition, neighborhoods don't build in my backyard. There's a sort of and it's a good and bad thing, but it's a challenge in our industry. But there is definitely this, I don't want things to change in New Mexico, this sort of mentality. I don't want things to change. And I'm always recruiting new businesses to come to New Mexico, retail businesses, industrial businesses to come to New Mexico and to see our opportunity on I-40 and I-25 when it comes to industrial, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also to see all of our new home growth here and why retailers would be attracted to all of the new rooftops growing on the west side. And so there's a lot of positive attributes here, but I would say we're very challenged with
Yeah, I agree
this
with
sort of
you.
stigma of not in my backyard. I don't want things to change. I want things to be better, but I don't want things to change. And that really is a challenge. And that sometimes infiltrates through government policies, government sort of procedures, and even in leadership oftentimes. So I know there's a big part of the New Mexico and the Albuquerque metro community, that the business community that works very hard to fight against these and to make it more business friendly. And so there's other people that share this sentiment. And so I know there
Mm-hmm.
are active groups that work towards getting this. I think in general, we have a hard time keeping our youth here. So when you tell me young
Yeah.
doctors are leaving, well, there's a lot of reasons to that. Well, we don't have any major sports teams. We don't. What do kids like to do? What do young kids like to do? They like to be
Mm-hmm.
entertained, right? They want to do things. So while yes, we have mountains and we have outdoor, beautiful, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I put it up against any state in the country.
Oh yeah, me
We
too.
have gorgeous landscape, right, and gorgeous things to do. But young kids aren't always as thrilled with that as maybe a more mature adult or mid age to aging adult might be. They want entertainment. They want to go to the NBA game, and they want to go to this scene. They want to hear music here. They want to go to this concert here and do things. They want entertainment. And right now we don't have a lot of that. Yes, we do have some. Absolutely. We got Top Golf. We've got a lot of great new things. But is it all happening at the same pace that we're perceivably losing young talent?
Right.
And those two things are not matching up, and it's a challenge. And I think I would say very much our leadership is aware of it. I would say there's people very active in the business community trying to get that to happen. I'm one of them, trying to recruit and talk
Yay.
about the great things of our state and why you would want to bring Top Golf here or a pickleball concept here and all these entertainment things. But I think when kids leave, they want to go do things. I want to go to another college so we can do this, so we can do that. And oftentimes they experience these larger cities with cleaner, safer. Why would I want to go back home? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think as a community, there's a real quality of life, economic development, youth recruiting, talent retention. These are all things that are very, very important to the business community as a whole to help our state and our metro progress and maintain talent. And when you maintain that talent, you double your workforce. Oftentimes, site selectors come in. I'm talking big groups like Amazon, like big industrial, big retail, big geotech, all of these big groups, labs, military, all these things, different entities look at our state. They look at
Mm-hmm.
where's your workforce, where's your infrastructure, where are
Yep.
all these things? They're looking at us. We're right next to Austin, our sister city. We're right next to Phoenix. We're right next to Denver, and at the
Yeah.
end of the day, how do we stack up? And so I know very much like area, which is the regional economic development group, they work very hard to address these things and communicate what the benefits we do and highlighting what we have, making things better. So I I've never one to bag on my community. Every community has their challenges. I would say these are ours. And as being in the business, it's our job to advocate on what is available here. I can't change any policy single handedly, but I can talk to that next pickleball court group and tell them, hey, I've got your customer in Rio Rancho. They are starved for entertainment.
Yeah.
You will be packed every Friday night, and I've got 500 to $1 million homes going up all around you. Take a look at this site. That's what I can do, and that's I think
Well,
the
you
value
just
we bring.
really educated me on a lot of things that you see that's going on for being a part of the groups that you are a part of, and getting that information and gaining the insight. So that I think that was just amazing
I think it's not just
information.
commercial real estate. You have to understand everything that's tied to this, and it's I've been blessed through land development to be tied to those big projects, and it's not just the little retail shop on Manal that needs to be sold, which
Hmm.
yes, I give that my utmost attention and value. Same business, same care. But being on larger development projects and seeing out of state investors, whether that's retail, industrial, even medical, when they're site selecting, I mean, I'm putting my properties out there for bid. Get me in the mix. Come to our state. This is why. It's so much bigger than the site. Economic development is hand in hand with what we do. So I think in that sense, there's some challenges with our state, but man, I challenge any state who doesn't have that. So I think it's just a matter of our leadership wanting to make a change in our people, our people wanting these things and not being so not in my
Yeah,
backyard,
yeah, yeah.
and pushing that out because it does matter.
What exactly do you see needing to happen for us to become a little bit more like our sister cities? And do you think that Albuquerque or Rio Rancho is the future for that kind of development?
Great question. There was a time when Albuquerque and Phoenix were head to head. They were right there with each other, right? Same amount of development, same opportunity, and it clicked with someone. It clicked with one town, and it didn't with the other. And now we're here. Okay,
Hmm.
massive things that need to change. I would say it all starts with leadership, and I'm not going to get too much in the weeds here, but leadership. We need to be a better and more pro-business state. Simple as that. We need to be more pro business, and right now we're not as pro business as our sister states all around us. We're just not. And what does that actually tangibly come into? That means helping our developers, helping investors get from concept to form quicker than the year 2 year of entitlement periods they have to deal with now, and the red tape that they have to deal with now. Developers look at some of our projects and say, I don't even want to deal with it. I don't even want to deal with it. Go through the I don't want to go through the ropes and strings that I have to do to make this project. I can go right next door and be done in half the time, and time is money in this industry. Okay, so it's a very straightforward thing there. Well, crime has got to be handled. There's national retailers that are looking at this. I'm talking big box retailers that will literally pull out of the market saying, are the loss from theft is not worth putting in a store there. And I will say that we are not an island with crime. You go to every state and every city I've mentioned, and everyone has it. So this is not subject to us. How we handle it is subject to us. Okay. And how there is not a lot of support for our business people. A lot of these businesses that are going out of business, they don't want to deal with it because they don't have support. So crime is a challenge, right? I feel uncomfortable sometimes in my family. Like, why? If I move somewhere, then I'm taking my talent. I'm a native New Mexican, born and raised on a ranch in northern New Mexico. I mean, I am as salt of the earth, roots, deep roots as it gets in New Mexico. And I'm enticed oftentimes to look at other areas for the safety of my kids and the safety of things. But I believe in New Mexico. I believe there is enough of a strong business community that has money and power to make change. And I think we're in the right direction. I think enough people are getting fed up with it that there's some real attention to the issue. So crime needs to be handled. Taking projects from concept to form through the city entitlement process has got to be better. We need better support for infrastructure. Let me explain that one. So land is great. We got this piece of land out here, but is there water? Is there sewer? Is there electric? Is there power to that site? Do you realize the cost for a developer to buy land and have to bring those utilities there? See, these are things that really should be supported by the city and the state more so than they are now, to help get these sites ready and ready for developers to come in. If they've got to put in all that infrastructure, here we go again. We lost to our neighbors because the infrastructure is not there. Now, this is infrastructure is definitely something that our I know that our leadership is aware of, and I know there was a lot of great bills that was passed at the recent legislature to get site readiness in play. And so there are initiatives, there are things moving in a positive direction, and there is an army of really strong business people that have put their money where their mouth is and have invested into our city. You can see it all around us. Look at Windrock, look at New Park Square, look at Jim Long's project at Sawmill. These are investors, and these are pro-business groups that are putting money into our state. So I really would have to say is that, those three items, but also retaining our talent, and our kids and our children, and building a community, a safe community, being in a community that people want to stay in and maintain that talent and want to come to. And so I think it's a combination of all those things, but it's really about site readiness, a safe community. The landscape does its own recruiting. We don't have to do anything for there. There's a silent culture in New Mexico that sells itself. And I often think, this is a personal view, I often think that we're just like, oh, we're New Mexico. We're the state of history and deep, rich culture, which is so true. And then we're done. That's it. We'll let that carry the narrative for us instead of creating these other strong narratives. This is a great place for development. This is a great place to bring your family. This is a great place. We just kind of ride the skirt tails of our culture and our deep roots of history here, which is gorgeous and beautiful and has attracted people for decades. But there's some real logistics that we need to get in line, and I think they're in the right path. I'm proud to be in the industry right now.
That was great. You guys can kind of wrap this up as we approach the hour.
I think
There's
that's
a
always
lot more
why
that's involved
there's
in
so
this.
much. It's economy. I have to understand economics as much as I have to understand real estate. You have to understand these outside drivers, and I think that's what makes, honestly, the average broker average and the great ones great, is you understand the big picture. You can speak the language to the people that need to know that information, and that's the value I feel that we bring to the team. Is understanding the big picture, and then obviously we can drill down into the building and construction and all that stuff. But in the big picture, what are the larger elements that are affecting lending, that are affecting construction, that are affecting getting a project entitled? I did want to touch on what you were saying. One question, which was do I think growth is happening on the west side? Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, we're landlocked by the pueblos, and we're landlocked by our mountains. Okay, so there's only one way to grow, and it's the west side, and that's where we're seeing all of our growth. And when I go out of state at least 2-3 times a year, out of state conferences. I'm constantly prospecting out of state to bring new concepts, retail concepts, new industrial groups, to bring attention to our market, to look at our market. And I tell you, we're still in a housing shortage. And a lot of this, you have to understand, a lot of commercial real estate is very much dictated by residential, right? Where rooftops grow, retail follows. You've got to service all of those homes. And so right now, something that is very helpful for us is we have a very clear sight of where growth is at. because of our land constraints, if you will. Growth is on the west side. It's happening on the northwest side and it's happening on the southwest side. It's happening and it's wonderful growth. It's really great. We can't put houses fast enough for people to buy them. I mean, you look at Los Diamantes in Rio Rancho. They were on their third expansion and they're actually having to tap into their industrial park to build more homes. They're adding a new high school out there. They're adding a new middle school out there. We have the new Market Street out there, which is one of the like
Oh
first or
yeah.
second grocery stores that have been built in the past decade in our city. And so incredible growth happening out there. It's really exciting to see. But what comes with new growth comes construction costs and new construction costs and not everyone, as much as we want to be out there on the west side, a lot of people can afford going out on the west side, whether that's commercial, real estate, but there's some great opportunity right now. And what's helpful with that is that when you are talking to new retailers that are looking to go into a new trade area or new market, they do it with caution, right? But I can tell them, hey, this is where all the growth is happening. I'm not guessing it. I'm not hoping it goes that way. This is where the growth is happening. And so with that, you could sort of align new developers or new concepts into the market with where they would be the most successful. So I think I'm very bullish on the west side, whether that's north or south. Very different economics on both sides, but both very viable for a retailer. Both are underserved. Lots of growth, major corridors that are identified, right? Unser goes north and south. If you're all on Unser, you're on a commuter corridor, so you're going to have traffic counts and visibility. So I think that's definitely a feather in our hat for Albuquerque is west side growth, whether that's north or south, and it absolutely is the future. You also have to include Mesa del Sol in that. Mesa del Sol, growing to the south of Albuquerque, is a wonderful community, very progressive community, very safe community, eco-friendly. We've got to get some services out to those homes as well. So there is a lot of wonderful, positive things happening in our metro. We just wish development could happen sooner, and get to form pretty quickly. And I think we're all just seeing what's happening geopolitically too. I mean, there's a lot going on right now. So I think it's keeping us all on our toes.
Yep. Thank you so much, Genieve, for joining us today. And I look forward to many years to come to work with you.
Oh yeah.
And I think that, don't get too big for us.
No way. I will keep the talent here. Likewise. No, I think I think this combination of expertise and knowledge and talent, I think Locking Arms really is quite a package for our customers. And I think I've certainly enjoyed it and I love helping businesses and I really do love helping our economy. It means a lot. New Mexico means a lot to me.